Hey, welcome to the show, Under Contract Live. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure that you're liking and sharing the show on Facebook. Also, make sure, please, that you like our page, Under Contract Live. We'll be broadcasting through our page as well. And welcome to the show. You know, today's a little bit different. We're actually coming to you live from our green room, which ironically is more like red, black, and white, which also happens to be the colors of Under Contract Live, so it kind of makes sense. But we're in the green room here next to the studio, and the reason we're broadcasting from here today is we're going to be talking about and actually reflecting on a previous interview. We're going to look back at our very first interview with Under Contract Live, and we're going to do that here in just a couple of minutes. But I also wanted to mention about some upcoming events and a couple of upcoming shows. We've got a great lineup that's coming. In fact, we're going to be talking to a custom builder here in the next couple of weeks. I know for me personally, I've never worked with a custom builder. Have you worked with a custom builder? If you have, you definitely want to not only comment, but tune into that show. And we could use your engagement because we're going to be interviewing a custom builder, talking about that process, what it looks like, what realtors really need to know, what are the misconceptions, just basically all about anything that would help us when it comes to having that client that maybe needs that custom home built. So we'll be doing that in an upcoming episode very soon here. Also, I believe it's in 2 weeks, we've got Karen Clark. Karen Clark is a realtor that is getting it done here in the Tampa Bay area. He works for Keller Williams. He's got the whole car wrap going on. He's always actively doing something and producing results. So we're going to get with him and talk about his success and have him share, of course, with us, our viewing audience, some tips and tricks to help us grow our business as well. So that'll be exciting. But next week, we're going to be live from Austin, Texas. Austin, we're coming to you, Austin. Going to be in Austin, I believe it'd be next week, Wednesday. I think that is the 4th. So on the 4th, we'll be in Austin. We'll also be in Georgetown, Killeen, looking at a stop possibly in Houston, and also maybe Biloxi, Mississippi. So we'll be kind of all over the place in the upcoming weeks, and then of course we'll be back here in our home studio. So let's take a look back at one of my favorite interviews. This is the first interview that we did on Under Contract Live. It was the very first episode, and it's with realtor John Wilcher. Let's take a look. Hey, welcome back to Under Contract, and we are live, and we're about to bring our first guest on for Under Contract. And, I want to say this before I bring our guest on. I was very intentional about the guest that would be on the first episode, and this particular gentleman actually showed up on my radar several years ago before I even got into real estate. I was actually listening to one of Grant Cardone's shows. If you don't know Grant Cardone, you can Google him. Most of you do, but if you don't, Google him and make sure you follow him as well. He's a world-class sales trainer and real estate mogul. And, John called into this live show a few years ago and talking about what he was going to do here in the future with his real estate business. And kind of from a distance, I have watched that actually take place. So this is a guy that not only talks the talk, but walks the walk. And before I bring him on, I also want to mention that, I'm going to tell just a little quick bio of John. He made Sarasota, Florida his home in 2000. He was drawn to the area because of its great beauty, fabulous beaches, and abundant supply of sunshine and superior quality of life. In 2001, John decided that he could help others have a similar lifestyle and pursued a career in real estate. John is a former police officer and decorated combat veteran of Afghanistan. This extensive training has prepared John to handle the sometimes intensive world of buying and selling a home. I think if you're in real estate, we can kind of relate to that. But I want to bring on John Wilcher of the Wilcher Group out of Sarasota, Bradenton, Florida area. And John, welcome to the show. And might I just say that thank you for your service, first of all. And, you were actually protecting the land before you sold it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, John, like I mentioned, you kind of showed up on my radar a few years back. And maybe
kind of give us a little bit of your story leading up to where you're at now, because you have an amazing story. Not only are you an American hero in my eyes and a former first responder, but tell us about how you got into interstate or real estate and what has led up to this point.
It was the core. The schedule was Marine Corps, Police Department, and then I took a nasty divorce back in about 2000. So I've always dreamed of living in Florida. So I moved to Florida and thought about getting back into law enforcement, but I went towards the path of sales, and then gym memberships, a couple of things on door to door, and then stumbled upon a guy that told me how to get my real estate license. I did. And it was tough. I mean, I had to sell my girlfriend's car at the time. We didn't have enough money to join the board of realtors. I went to Goodwill to get my first suit. My car didn't have AC. So I'm driving around trying to sell Florida real estate in a black suit with no AC. And it was tough, but I started to learn a little bit more. And that was back in 03, 04, 05. And we were order takers back then. It was just anybody was thriving and doing very well. So I climbed up very quick through the School of Hard Knocks. And then I would say I was over-leveraged and honestly didn't know how to run a business. And I'm smart enough and mature enough to say that when you point your finger at the problem, you're really pointing three fingers back at the real problem or the true problem. So when 2008 came, I came crashing down with it. And I found myself with a stay-at-home wife, with a 3-month-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, and unable to support the family. And that's when my world come crashing down. So that's when everything changed right there.
Yeah. Now, at that point, when the market kind of crashed and you found yourself in that position, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is when you actually decided to join the service. Is that correct?
It wasn't a whole lot of deciding to go about it. It was like, what am I going to do to pay these bills and to get diaper money, to be very, very blunt. It was some dark times. So with that being said, I tried to go back to the Marine Corps, and I was 38 years old, and they were like, about facing forward march, old man, not going to happen. And if you remember back in 08, Afghanistan and Iraq was going on at the same time. So the Army said, come on in, son. And they gave me a pen. I signed up right then, and 2 weeks later I was gone. So I had to leave a three-month-old son and a 3-year-old daughter and my wife. And leaving, I tell you, I've told the story many times, and I can finally tell it without cracking up or crying. But when I said goodbye to my daughter, I was on bent knee, and I was just bawling. And then when I was trying to say goodbye to my daughter, she said, "Daddy, why's your eyes leaking?" And that's when I lost it. So I went away to basic training at 38 years old, and did my time there at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, in single digits. It was cold as hell. And then got my orders for Germany. And then while in Germany, got my orders for Afghanistan. I did 371 days in Afghanistan. And the crazy thing is while I was in Afghanistan, even though I'd lost my, in real estate and my world just fell apart, I still had it in my blood. And once you have sales and that entrepreneurship in your blood, you can't get it out. So I would literally, while in Afghanistan, I would walk about an hour to get to dial-up internet. I'd wait for about an hour to get to the computer. Once I got there, I would always go to the HeraldTribune.com and Realtor.com, and I would always see what's going on, quote, back home in real estate. And then I did my time there. It was crazy, but I got out alive. And then I got back to society in 2012, and that's when I come to the crossroad of real estate or law enforcement. And I'm so glad I went this route towards real estate.
Yeah, obviously we are too, because you're a shining example, and we're going to get into here in just a few minutes about where John is currently today in his business and how much business he's doing. But leading up to this, I can't help but think, John, when I listen to just that part of your story, you can almost foreshadow your success, because, doing some of the things that you did, first of all, my gosh, I can't imagine. Hats off for looking at the service and taking that opportunity, and especially at a time when you knew that you more than likely are putting yourself in harm's way. And I'm sure that was part of the emotion you felt leaving your family. But the what you talked about, going so far to get dial-up and and trying to get connected with anything that you could do to help give you an edge when you got back home to start this business is pretty amazing. But go ahead and pick up from when you come back and re-enter real estate.
Yeah, when I came back, and when I was in Afghanistan, in real estate, we always have to do our continuing education every 2 years. So I had the real estate school mail me by U.S. mail over to Afghanistan, the bubble sheet and the forms, and they're in Afghanistan by pencil. I did my little bubble sheet and I sent it in. So I'm so glad I did. But once I got back, I hit that crossroad and I told my wife, I said, remember that crazy, career where we lost everything and borderline bankrupt? And I said, let me try it again. I said, I want to do it. So I took 5 of my favorite heroes out locally for lunch, and all 5 of them said, no, don't do it. It was 2012, short sales, bank owns, and unemployment was crazy. And they told me don't do it. And of course, I didn't listen, and I did. And 1 contract became 2, and 2 became 4, and 4 became 8. And I will say in my first year in 2012, I drove 42,000 miles on my car in a Fiat, and I sold $1.2 million worth of real estate. That's it. But I had enough. We barely survived, and we made it through the tough times. I would leave in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would go to the gym. I would shower at the gym. I would get home usually on average about 8 or 9 at night. Kids would already be in bed. Wake up next morning, roll out at 4 o'clock. There were many days in a row, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row that I wouldn't see the wife or the kids. But I didn't have an option. Failure wasn't an option. There's no salary. There's no benefits. It's just hustle, straight ass hustle. And I knew I didn't have a choice. And then once that ball started rolling a little bit, that's when I got a little smarter. I didn't say real smart, but I say a little smarter. And that's when I was introduced to Grant Cardone. One of his guys called me up. I filled something out online. His guys called me up. They gave me the hard close. I paid the money for this, what's called Cardone University. And that's what changed everything. And after that, I went from 1.2 to 3.6 to 6.1 to 8 last year. 8 million, and then last year I did 10 million. So now, and I'd love to talk about personal development and coaching, but I will say that through Cardone and several others, it really got me on a path to personal development, and it's got me where I'm at today.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to key in on today with you, because I do know, obviously, part of your story and the people that you've connected with and invested in yourself when it comes to personal development. I was thinking about this interview, and I thought about the fact that, when you're on the airplane and the flight attendant's giving you, the kind of the rundown when you take off, and they talk about how the air mask, if the cabin loses pressure, you put the air mask on yourself first so that you can help serve others. So I think that's kind of a great analogy. But you talked about the fact that you signed up for Grant's university, Cardone University, and I also know for a fact that you are involved with the Mastery program with Joshua Smith. And Joshua's on my radar, by the way, for the show, but I've been following him a lot as well. But one of the things is that I think a lot of realtors, and you can comment on this, John, but I think a lot of realtors, they look at the expenses, and especially if they're just getting started, they're spending money, they have to market themselves. Maybe it's a slow start in general real estate where you have to go capture all those clients. It's kind of somewhat counterintuitive, if you will. I mean, you logically it might make sense to invest in yourself, but it's a little counterintuitive when you're, writing those checks and you think about spending $2,000 or, $1,000 even to, invest in training, hoping there's a return. So maybe talk a little bit about that mindset.
Yes, that mindset is what changed everything. And let me get real personal with that. Being said, I work. So took that 2012 mentality with work, leaving at 4 and everything. I pretty much train wrecked an amazing marriage, and we were at the point of no return with marriage counseling, and we went out to dinner, and we said goodbye, and didn't ever tell the kids. There was no fighting, there was no nothing, but there was also nothing left of a marriage. And that's when I was like, what am I going to do? There's no money problems. There's no infidelity, but this thing is dead. So what I did is I hired a personal coach. This kid was $7,000 out of England. And I won't tell you what I told him online. I was like, are you freaking out of your mind? And I was like, you know what? It's cheaper than a divorce. I gave him my credit card on the spot. His name's Darren Casey. And within 10 days, the marriage started to mold back together from what he had taught me. And what he taught me, and if I could teach one thing, it's this. It's everything has 2 pages. And I was just focused on what Kelly, my wife, wasn't doing over here on the left page. She wasn't doing this. And Darren taught me to focus on what she was doing, she does do. And that's what I focus on today in my marriage and with everything. Clients, I mean, some of these clients will drive us freaking crazy, but I will focus on the right page of what they do instead of what they don't do. So once I got a little taste of that personal development and the marriage started to mend itself back together, that's when I started surrounding myself around industry game changers. I mean, I spent a weekend with Frederick Eklund. I flew out and spent a weekend with Joshua Smith. And now the people that I hang with are just the who's who of industries that are multi-millionaires. I spend time with Grant Cardone and Batia, my man, and all these people that I spend time with. So I'm getting winded, but once I got a little taste of personal development and the marriage started mending back together, I'm like, hold on, this is pretty good shit. So what do? So then I started to read a lot of books. And then once I started reading, it changed everything. So now literally I have a personal development coach, I have a real estate coach, and I have a sales coach. So I have all 3. And is it expensive? Yes, it is very expensive. But I liken it to someone like it's a pro golfer. They have a putting coach, they have a driving coach, a professional basketball player, they have a free throw coach, they have a defensive coach, and they got an offensive coach. So now, I mean, Tony Robbins even has a coach. I actually know his coach. So to get to the level to where I wanted to get, I had to change me. John Wilcher couldn't get to $10 million when I was $1 million in 2012. I didn't know how, but I learned. So to get to the level, I had to change. And once I started to change, and like you said, to be selfish about it, once I changed, it's like a train. And then the wife and the kids and everybody else just kind of followed me up that hill.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that I pick up there, and one of them is that I think, and again, I think about the viewers and the people that are watching, whether it's realtors, lenders, builders, developers, whatnot, but especially realtors. I think sometimes they'll spend maybe $500 on some kind of little ad campaign, if you will, but $500 to go to a seminar. It's maybe a tougher spend for them. And, I'm a huge proponent of the personal development myself. And the way that I look at it, John, and tell me your thought, but the way that I look at it is, look, I can spend $500 and hope that something works out there in an ad and maybe I get a customer, but odds are I probably won't with that type of budget. Or I can spend $500, go get several things from an individual or seminar that I can use forever throughout my career that will bring me many, many customers. What do you say?
I agree 100%. Once I started putting myself first, you talked about the oxygen mask that comes down. When they said that on the flight, that doesn't make sense. What kind of parent would do that? Why would they put their mask on first before their children? We're both fathers. But it's true. If you take care of yourself first, and I selfishly put myself first before anybody on this planet, but once I improved myself, boom, the marriage, my wife didn't change, I changed. But once she saw that change, we mend back together and we have a stronger marriage than ever. I'm more in love with my wife today than I have ever been. We've been together for 16 years. I'm an epic father. I went from coming home and my kids wouldn't even say anything to me. Now when I come home, my son runs out to the garage, opens up the door and gives me a big hug almost on a daily basis. That's because I fixed me. Selfishly fixed me. So I spend an insane amount of time on me. I wake up at 4, I plan my whole day, I'm gone. But for the family time, it's not the quantity, it's the quality of the time. So again, I'm getting winded and maybe off track, but I will agree wholeheartedly, 100%. Once I put myself first, that's when everything else molded, and I love the mold. I probably spend 20% of my time, and I probably spent 20% of my budget on my personal development. It's a lot of money, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, I love it. And, I kind of want to go back to the numbers because I know that now at this point, hearing your story is awesome, but realtors I know are thinking, okay, first of all, he went from 1.2, 3.6, 6.1, 8, 10. How big is his group? How big is your group, John, that you've done these kind of numbers?
It's a team of 3. It's called me, myself, and I.
Come on now.
No, the Wilcher group is right here. Unfortunately, I'm a control freak, and I tell you, my wife, I've just hired 2. They will be starting in the very near future. They're just past their real estate course. But I don't even use a contract coordinator. I don't use controlled wipers. I don't use cruise control. Delayed wipers, nothing. I got issues, right? So with that being said, I literally did $10 million on my own with no help.
Very little marketing money, right? Very little marketing, because it really went into personal development.
Of zero. No,
marketing budget of zero.
No, I don't send just listed, just sold. I've never sent a postcard in my life. It's all school of hard knocks, picking up the phone. Who do you know? Grant Cardone taught me how to prospect, how to close, and how to be a salesman. And I've never been more prouder ever to be a salesman. I'm a salesman. I'm not a realtor. I'm a salesman. The commodity that I sell just happens to be real estate. But with that being said, Joshua Smith, as you mentioned his name earlier, he taught me the real estate skills that I needed with the mega open houses and things like that. So with that, I've parlayed it into local businesses, my sphere of influence, cold calls, and things like that. So, yeah, I've got a lot of growing to do. I got a lot of maturing to do. I have here recently let go of my ego, which was a big deal for me. So I've put my ego aside, and I will be sharing, the business with my wife, who's joining in the very near future, and this young man named Javier. So now I took my face and my name off of everything. I just ordered a bunch of signs that says the Wilcher Group, and then I will share, and I'm letting go of the ego so I can grow, because when you do 10 million on your own, you're about capped out. You just can't really do everything anymore, and I'm starting to drop a couple of the balls, and realtors will know what I'm talking about with inspections and stuff. So I got a lot of growing to do, and I need to learn how to let go a little bit.
Yeah. Well, John, you know what? I love your story, and I know that realtors have a lot of more questions, and unfortunately we're running out of time. So what I want to do, if you don't mind sharing your contact information. I know we have your Twitter handle there under your name, but how would realtors reach out to you, find you, to ask questions about what you're doing, and maybe giving them some pointers?
I'd love to help out in any way that I can. Reach out, Facebook, John Wilcher, thewilchergroup.com. Reach out that way. Twitter is not the best, but Facebook is probably the best for me. I'd love to share some advice if I could. And I tell people, listen, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And if I got to go through what I went through and then come back and to plan and put together and to execute what I've executed. And again, this doesn't come from ego, but if I can increase my sales 1,000% in 4 years, anybody can do it. Anybody.
I love it. I love the attitude. I love your success. I love the story. We thank you again, John, for your service, and we'll be connecting soon, I'm sure. Thank you for being on Under Contract.
Awesome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. There you heard it. That was John Wilcher. I call him the $10 million man. And there were so many questions that we didn't get into. Obviously, being the first time around on the show live, we have some time constraints, and it was a little tough to judge those as we were walking through that. But some of the things I wanted to talk to John about as well was his relationship with new builders, some tips on things that he's doing, because I know he's very connected in his local farm area with new construction. So reach out to John and ask some of those questions to him. Great guy, great mentor for realtors, and we didn't even get into his appearance on the hit TV show Bravo $1 Million Listing, so make sure you ask him about that as well. So,
hey, we're back. Thank you for tuning in, and thanks for taking a look back with us at that very first interview with John Wilcher. John, thank you so much for your service and for being on the show Under Contract Live, and I know that you are continuing to do amazing things, and we'll get you back on the show very soon. The next thing that I wanted to do, though, was announce the Realtor of the Week. Realtor of the Week, she is getting it done. This was a total, by the way, a total no-brainer. It is, the Realtor of the Week, drumroll, is Amanda Kraft Miller. Amanda Kraft Miller, you are getting it done. And we're going to have your information up on the screen here for just a moment so that people can reach out to you. Look, Realtor of the Week is a person or persons, possibly, could be a couple, Realtors of the Week. But Realtor of the Week is something that we look at each week and on social media and really see who is not only being extremely active and aggressive as far as going out and getting business and getting attention by getting that business, but also those who are just continually putting homes under contract, buying, selling, someone who essentially is out there getting it done. And we're in the heyday right now. We've talked about that. So make sure that you are out there as well. And maybe you'll be the next Realtor of the Week. So, hey, I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, next week we're going to be live from Austin, Texas, baby. Austin, Texas. Maybe I'll buy a hat. I don't know. But we'll be live, and we'll see you then. For now, it's goodbye and #boom.